A ruthless outlaw gang cut off a young woman's hands and left her to die in the frozen mountains of Montana. But when a fearless cowboy rescued her, an unforgettable journey of courage, hope, and justice began. Stay until the end to witness her incredible fate. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the bell icon for more powerful Wild West stories. The rugged mountains of Montana stretched endlessly beneath a cold gray sky, where towering pine forests and rocky cliffs hid countless dangers from anyone brave enough to travel alone. In the late autumn of the American frontier, the wilderness showed little mercy. Snow had already begun dusting the higher peaks, and icy winds swept through narrow valleys with frightening force. Small ranches and mining camps stood miles apart, leaving travelers to depend only on their courage and determination. Among those traveling through this unforgiving land was a young woman named Sarah Collins, whose family had built a quiet life through years of sacrifice, hard work, and honest determination. Sarah was known throughout the nearby settlements as a kind-hearted and determined woman who never feared difficult work. After her father passed away, she helped manage the family's small ranch, while protecting a secret that only a few trusted relatives knew. Hidden somewhere within the surrounding hills was a cache of gold her father had discovered years earlier. He had never trusted banks or dishonest businessmen, believing the fortune should remain hidden until his family truly needed it. Before his death, he made Sarah promise never to reveal its location to anyone, no matter the cost. She intended to honor that promise forever. One cold afternoon, Sarah loaded supplies onto a wagon and began the long journey toward the nearest trading town. She expected nothing more than a quiet trip through familiar trails. Instead, fate had something far darker waiting beyond the trees. A notorious outlaw gang led by the ruthless Cole Mercer had been watching travelers for days, searching for anyone connected to rumors of hidden frontier gold. When they spotted Sarah traveling alone, they blocked the narrow mountain pass and surrounded her before she had any chance to escape. Their leader stepped forward with a cruel smile, already convinced she possessed the secret they desperately wanted. Cole demanded that Sarah reveal where her family's gold was hidden, promising wealth and freedom if she cooperated. Sarah stood her ground, despite the fear racing through her heart. She calmly refused every threat, insisting she knew nothing worth telling. Her courage only fueled the gang's anger. They searched her wagon, destroyed her belongings, and questioned her for hours beneath the freezing sky. Every answer remained the same. She would never betray her father's final wish. The outlaws gradually realized that intimidation alone would not break her spirit, and their frustration transformed into terrifying cruelty that no innocent person deserved to endure. As darkness settled across the mountains, Cole ordered his men to make an example of her. Their violence shocked even a few younger members of the gang, but no one dared challenge their leader. Sarah screamed in agony as the criminals brutally severed both of her hands, believing unbearable pain would force her to surrender the secret. Even through tears and unimaginable suffering, she refused to speak a single word about the hidden gold. Furious that they had gained nothing, the gang abandoned her in the snow beside the lonely trail, convinced the freezing wilderness would finish what they had started before sunrise. Hours passed in complete silence, except for the howl of wolves echoing through distant valleys and the relentless wind blowing across the mountainside. Sarah drifted between consciousness and darkness, her strength fading with every passing minute. She thought about her father, her childhood home, and the promise she had protected despite the terrible price. Snow slowly gathered around her motionless body, while the bitter cold stole what little warmth remained. She whispered a final prayer, believing no one would ever find her. In that lonely wilderness, hope seemed as distant as the stars, hidden behind the thick storm clouds above. Many miles away, a solitary rancher named Jacob Turner guided his horse along the same mountain trail after delivering cattle to a neighboring settlement. A former army scout, Jacob had spent years surviving harsh conditions and reading signs others overlooked. As evening approached, he noticed unusual tracks leading away from the main road, along with broken wagon pieces scattered across the snow. His instincts warned him something terrible had happened nearby. Following the trail without hesitation, he soon discovered Sarah lying unconscious in the freezing wilderness. At that moment, Jacob knew saving her would risk his own life, but leaving her behind was never an option. Sarah's recovery was painfully slow, and every sunrise reminded her of everything she had lost. The wounds on her arms slowly healed, but the emptiness she felt inside seemed impossible to overcome. Simple tasks that once required no thought had suddenly become impossible. She could no longer dress herself, prepare food, or even wipe away the tears that filled her eyes. More than once she whispered that it would have been better if she had died in the mountains. Jacob never argued with her despair. Instead, he quietly remained by her side, proving through actions that even the darkest wounds could slowly begin to heal. Jacob believed that survival meant far more than simply staying alive. Every day he searched for new ways to help Sarah regain her independence, allowing pity to define her future. Using scraps of leather, carved wood, and old metal buckles, he spent countless evenings building simple tools that could be strapped securely to her arms. His first inventions were rough and uncomfortable, but he refused to give up. Each failure taught him something new. Before long, Sarah was able to hold a spoon, steady a book, and accomplish small tasks that slowly restored the confidence she believed she had lost forever. The first time Sarah managed to feed herself without assistance, tears filled both their eyes. It was not because the task was perfect, but because it represented hope. Day after day, Jacob patiently encouraged her to keep trying. He celebrated every tiny victory, whether she buttoned a coat, turned the pages of a book, or balanced a cup without dropping it. His encouragement slowly replaced the fear that had consumed her heart. Although painful memories still haunted her nights, Sarah gradually realized that courage was not the absence of suffering, but the determination to continue despite overwhelming hardship. As winter faded into spring, Sarah became stronger both physically and emotionally. She began walking around the ranch each morning, helping Jacob care for the horses and chickens using the leather tools he had carefully improved over time. The work remained difficult, but every challenge she conquered reminded her that her life still had meaning. News of her remarkable determination spread throughout the nearby town. Families who had once heard only tragic rumors now visited the ranch with homemade meals, warm blankets, and words of encouragement. Sarah's resilience inspired many people who had nearly given up on their own struggles. One afternoon, the town's blacksmith invited Sarah to his workshop after hearing about Jacob's handmade inventions. Together, they designed stronger metal attachments that fit comfortably over her arms, allowing her to perform even more daily tasks. Sarah practiced writing by holding a pencil inside one of the custom-made tools, forming shaky letters that gradually became steady words. The first complete sentence she wrote brought smiles to everyone watching. It simply read, "I am still alive." Those 4 words carried more strength than anyone could have imagined, reminding the entire community that courage often speaks louder than perfection. While Sarah slowly rebuilt her future, danger quietly returned to the mountains. Cole Mercer eventually learned through passing travelers that the young woman he believed dead had survived. Worse still, rumors claimed she was living openly at Jacob Turner's ranch. Fear replaced his confidence. If Sarah ever reached a federal marshal, every crime his gang had committed could finally catch up with them. Determined to erase the only witness who could identify them, Cole gathered his remaining outlaws and rode toward the isolated ranch. They believed one final attack would permanently silence the woman who had already survived the impossible. Jacob had expected this day ever since he rescued Sarah from the snow. Every evening, he quietly prepared for the possibility that the outlaws would return. When a neighboring rancher spotted armed riders approaching, word spread quickly through the town. Instead of hiding inside their homes, farmers, shopkeepers, blacksmiths, and former soldiers gathered beside Jacob's ranch. They understood that protecting Sarah meant defending justice itself. As the gang arrived expecting frightened victims, they instead found an entire community standing shoulder to shoulder. Outnumbered and unprepared for such resistance, the criminals realized fear had finally changed sides. A fierce battle erupted across the ranch, but the people refused to surrender. Jacob confronted Cole Mercer in a final struggle that ended the outlaw leaders' reign of terror, while the remaining gang members were captured by the determined townsfolk. When federal marshals arrived days later, Sarah bravely identified every criminal despite everything she had endured. Justice was finally served, and peace returned to the valley. Although Sarah would never regain her hands, she discovered something far more valuable than the gold her father had hidden. She found a loving family, loyal friends, lasting hope, and the courage to build a future that no outlaw could ever steal.